Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.
Welcome to St. Louis on the Air. I'm Rachel Lippmann. Just 2.5 weeks ago, the St. Louis Blues made history with their first Stanley Cup, and the memories are still fresh for lifelong and recent fans alike. To help keep those memories alive for the months and years ahead, the St. Louis Public Library wants your artifacts from this unbelievable season. Joining me recently to talk about it was Amanda Bahr-Evola. She's the manager of special collections and digital archives at the Central Library branch downtown. Amanda began by explaining how the St. Louis Public Library became the Blues official archive in the first place.
Well, it started when the Blues were celebrating their 50th anniversary, and they came to us and we worked together to do an exhibit. And in the process of doing that, discovered the Blues did not have a historian or an archives and weren't really in a position to preserve their stuff. So it seemed like the perfect time to offer that opportunity for them. So we serve as their repository to preserve their history.
And so tell me a little bit about the kind of things that you are doing in that repository role.
So what we're doing is preserving anything that the Blues organization wants to give us. So, for example, there are old marketing scrapbooks from the beginning where they saved every news clip for every year. Those scrapbooks are with us. Any photos, any memorabilia that they have comes to us. And also, we're also digitizing their materials as well so that we are preserving it that way as well as physically.
What would you say is the coolest archival item you have so far?
To me, it's the scrapbooks because it documents the entire process, right? As a historian, I like to see the whole thing. One of the things that's really interesting is because of the Kiel Center, they had all kinds of old images of Kiel that didn't necessarily have anything to do with the Blues, but were events that were held there. So we have some really fascinating images that are the history of St. Louis as well as the Blues.
Now, this is not something that a lot of NHL teams have, is, their own historian or their own archive. How do you view your responsibility here to the fans and to the team?
Well, it's kind of like making it up as we go along because it's not a traditional path that they have had. So it's kind of a big responsibility. I've learned a lot about hockey in the process, but it's neat to be able to be the one to save that record. And we are getting researchers that are starting to find us. So that's exciting.
What are they researching when they're approaching you about this?
Sometimes it's somebody that's researching the biography of a particular player, looking for stats and things like that. Sometimes it's somebody that's more of a genealogist that is trying to prove that someone played so in their family.
I'm related to this person.
Exactly. So all across the board. So it's always fun to be able to connect that person with something that, proves their point or helps their research along.
Do they ever get disappointed when you're like, no, actually, they didn't play for this team?
Yes, for sure. And of course, people expect us to have everything. They want us to have a photo from every event and every game and, a roster and a lineup card. And we just don't have that extent because it just wasn't saved.
Going back to the when the Blues approached you to be the archive, what was that conversation like? Who approached whom in that situation?
It was really the marketing department of the Blues realizing that they've had all this stuff and they wished it was being taken better care of because they just didn't have the staff to do it or the space. And as they were remodeling the Enterprise Center, they kept finding things as well. So it was, yes, this is absolutely something we can do for you, and being able to put it in a public place where patrons had access to it.
So you are now collecting some memorabilia from this historic season. What are you hoping that fans will provide you with?
We are really open-ended with this. We want to really capture the excitement that it was for the city and the personal experience that the fans have. So, just their Instagram photos, anything digital. We've gotten some people that have sent us their blog posts or their Facebook posts, but, ticket stubs, handmade posters that people made at the sign, handouts, rally towels, things like that. Anything that just captures what it was like.
And why is holding on to something like a rally towel that's probably mass produced, overseas somewhere and, gets recycled from numerous events? Why are things like that important for future people to look at and to see?
Because it's the tangible. We're in the digital world, of course, but people always like to, I'm a rare books librarian. People, no matter how many e-readers we have, people still want to feel the original book sometimes. And those things are, when you're going to do an exhibit in 25 years, those are the things people remember. And, that's what they connect to. So we want to be able to record that as well.
So is that sort of the intent as you build up this archive to do maybe a 25th anniversary of the Stanley Cup exhibit down the line?
Right. We want to be able to have that option, for the Blues to have that option.
And is that going to be kind of how that archive functions as well, is, designing other exhibits around that?
Possibly, and that will also work with the Blues because we, can loan stuff back to them. For example, when they were doing the renovation for their gift shop, they had their designer come over and look at old things and, the old pictures and old giveaways and stuff like that. So we want to make sure that's an option for them too.
You mentioned that you are collecting digital remnants of this season, the Instagram photos, the videos. We are in a totally almost digital environment now. You're getting the tickets on, your app on your phone. There are no ticket stubs. There's very rarely programs. Do we lose something by all of this being digitized?
I think a little bit, because you can't hold on to it anymore. So it's important to what we do have physically to keep that too. But, we can also, as long as we have the digital object, we can always reproduce it. We can always print one out. So it's an interesting time as archivally as we're making that shift to see.
What do you think it is about the tangibility, if that's even a word, just to have, physical items? Why is that so appealing?
I think it's just the human connection to things, being able to hold it in your hand and it feels real, and that you were a kind of a part of it, I think is how it's always seemed to be for me. And for people, like I said, from the rare books world, people that, want to actually see that first edition or that first copy.
I imagine that's why, even though a lot of people probably don't subscribe to the newspaper anymore, you couldn't get your hands on the special Enterprise edition of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Is there also something to be gained, though, by people being able to digitize the experience that they had, like fan videos of the celebration at Enterprise Center or on Market Street or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely, because the fans can add so much to that, because as they come to me, they're tagging them and they're tagging their friends and they're tagging the location, and you can't do that with the physical object the same way. So in a sense, we're adding more of ourselves to digital things and being able to make connections. So however we're going to put these out to the fans, with in a digital product, when we get all of these in, we'll be making those connections with people that they might not have been there standing next to each other in person at the parade, but their images are going to be right next to each other.
So tell me a little bit about how you're envisioning kind of building this digital record. Is it going to be something? I guess with it being digital, the World Wide Web is open kind of thing.
Right. So we're going to kind of see what we get to see exactly how this materializes. I can tell you right now, it will be a digital collection like we have currently on our website. So you'll be able to go in and look. And so we have some scrapbooks digitized already. So we'll just keep adding to that, and we'll make a fan section. But as to how we make it available, I'm not sure what all the possibilities are till we see what all we get.
How can people provide these artifacts, if you will, to the St. Louis Public Library?
So if it's a physical artifact, they can drop it off at Central Library to the Rare Books Department. If it's digital, and it can be emailed to me, straight to my email address.
And we'll put that email address on our website. Have you gotten anything in yet that you can talk about?
We haven't gotten anything in yet, except for digital images have come in by email. But I'm supposed to have a bunch of stuff coming on Monday. So it's been interesting. People have, a parade marshal wanted to know whether we would want the vest that they wore. I had a really interesting one from a guy who had been sitting up at the top at one of the games, and when we won, he made his fist and punched the ceiling, and some of the ceiling tile fell down, and so he kept it. And so he wanted to know whether we wanted to keep the ceiling tile or not.
Did you want to keep the vest and the ceiling tile?
Absolutely. So I can write that story of who it was and when he was and what happened. So.
Are there things you hope that people have that maybe they don't think would be important to the story that you're hoping they bring to you and to the library?
What we would kind of like to see is some of the signs from the little kids, the homemade things like that. We're hoping that people saved those and are willing to share them with us.
Once you've collected this archive and this material and the archive that is already available, how can people access that, the full collection here?
To see what we have?
Yes.
They'll be able to see it just like in a book in a catalog. You'll be able to search St. Louis Blues on our website, and it will bring up the listing of what we have.
And if they wanted to come see a specific item or do some research, how do they access sort of the physical archive?
They just need to give us a phone call or send us an email and make an appointment. We're available anytime the library is open, but we're a small department and some stuff is off-site storage, so we need to kind of have an appointment to make sure we get it out for them.
Libraries are these public places. They're accessible to anyone who wants to walk in. When the Blues wanted to put this archive in this public space, what would your reaction and what do you make of that decision instead of, putting it at their offices or at a private site, a home out in St. Louis County maybe?
I thought it was great, and that really came from the Blues as they were realizing what all they had and celebrating this anniversary and thinking about history, that they wanted to put it somewhere that all of their fans could see, whether it was someone that, it was too far away to be able to go to games often. They didn't want it to be somewhere where it was only open when the Enterprise Center was open. So the notion to put it in a public space was a great decision.
And how does that compare to sort of other archives just in general for not just sports teams, but as we think of archives in general?
It was a unique decision. I think it was a long range, thought out decision. And I think it shows the connection to the fans and thinking about all the different kinds of fans that you have. Because some ardent Blue fans have never been to a Blues game, right? But they're going to come to the library.
Do you hope that other teams take on the example of the Blues and do similar things?
I do. That's one thing that's exciting for us. We feel like we're kind of blazing the trail that we hope others pick up on.
Have you gotten contacts from any of the teams? Or?
Not yet, but I'm hoping maybe this will. Talking about the Stanley Cup win, we'll perhaps spur that to happen.
Amanda, thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was Amanda Bahr-Evola, the manager of special collections and digital archives at Central Library downtown, discussing St. Louis Public Library's official St. Louis Blues archive. This is St. Louis on the Air on St. Louis Public Radio, 90.7 KWMU.
Support comes from the Missouri Forest Products Association, saluting Earth Day on April 22nd with an ongoing commitment to help offset carbon emissions with sustainable harvesting of Missouri forests. Details at choosewood.com.